Shegun, don't move.
What happened?
Close the flask, slowly.
Put that phone down. You brought this food from home? Kehinde, stop recording me.
That food is rotten.
How did it get this bad?
Segun, pick up. I'm coming this weekend.
No, not this weekend.
If you don't ask me now, I'll ask you myself.
House, I want to see your wife.
She cannot see Wura like this.
Why? What aren't you telling me?
Wura isn't the woman I married.
Segun's hand froze over his flask. The office had gone quiet except for the low hum of the AC. 6 pairs of eyes were on him. Kehinde is the widest of them all, as something small and dark crawled out from beneath the rice and disappeared into his shirt cuff. He didn't scream. He didn't move. He just stared at the flask like it had betrayed him personally, because in a way, it had. Segun, now what be this now? Kehinde said, already reaching for his phone. It's nothing, Segun muttered, snapping the lid shut, but the smell had already escaped. Sour, thick, wrong. Someone at the next desk gagged and pretended to cough. Kehinde wasn't laughing yet, but Segun could see it building behind his eyes, the kind of story that would follow him around the office for months. He excused himself to the bathroom, locked the door, and pressed his forehead against the cool tile. 3 years ago, this was not the life he had signed up for. 3 years ago, he had been standing on a rooftop in Lekki, palms sweating, a small velvet box burning a hole in his pocket, while string lights swayed overhead, and Wura Ajayi laughed at something he had said, her head thrown back, her whole face lit up like she owned the sky. Segun, if you don't ask me now, I will ask you myself, she had said, eyes glinting, daring him. He went down on one knee right there, hands shaking. Wura, I don't want another day of my life without you in it. Marry me. She hadn't answered with words. She'd pulled him up by his collar and kissed him, slow, certain, her fingers curling into his shirt like she was trying to memorize the shape of him. And when she finally pulled back, she was crying and laughing at the same time. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He remembered carrying her down 4 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken and neither of them cared. He remembered their wedding night, her lace gown pulled on the floor, her whispering his name like it was the only word she knew. He remembered thinking, this woman is going to make my life beautiful. He had not been wrong exactly. He had just not understood how quickly beautiful could cuddle. It started small. 2 weeks after the wedding, he came home to find the sink stacked with 3 days of dishes and Wura curled on the couch in the same wrapper she'd worn since Tuesday. Baby, you never bathed today? He asked, trying to keep his voice light. I bathed yesterday, she said, not looking up from her phone. Segun, a person is allowed to rest. I have been working myself to death for this house. He let it go. Everyone needed rest, but yesterday became 3 days, became a week, and the smell in their bedroom began to compete with the smell of the stew going bad in the pot she refused to wash. Waraula, he corrected himself, exhaustion making him stumble over the wrong name entirely, a name from nowhere, and she'd looked at him like he'd struck her. Who is Simi? Nobody. I don't know why I said that. I'm tired, that's all. You are comparing me to somebody. I'm not comparing you to anybody. I love you. I just want you to take care of yourself. That's all I'm asking. She'd stood up so fast that the couch cushion slid to the floor. So because I'm resting, I'm now dirty to you. Is that what you're telling me? I didn't say dirty. You didn't have to say it. I can hear it in your voice. Waraula, please, I'm not trying to fight. Then stop looking at me like that. He hadn't known what look was on his face. He only knew that later that night, lying beside her in the dark, he reached for her hand and she let him hold her. And for a moment, it felt like maybe this was just a season, a storm that would pass. He had believed that for a long time, longer than he should have. Now, 3 years later, standing in an office bathroom with the ghost of a smell still clinging to his fingers, he understood something had shifted permanently, and he didn't know when, and he didn't know how to get it back. His phone buzzed. A text from his mother. "I'm coming to Lagos this weekend. Prepare the house." Segun closed his eyes. If anyone could see straight through the cracks in his marriage without being told, it was his mother. He didn't reply. He just stared at his reflection, a tired man in a wrinkled shirt, holding a flask that cost him his dignity in front of the whole office, and asked himself for the first time out loud in the empty bathroom, in barely a whisper, "What happened to my wife?" If you're watching this and you know a marriage that started with fire and somehow lost its spark, drop a comment. We want to hear your story. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe and like this video so you don't miss where this goes, because it gets a lot messier from here. Segun's mother arrived on Saturday morning wearing her finest lace, dragging a small suitcase and an expression that could curdle milk. "Where is she?" Morike asked, not bothering with greetings, stepping over a pair of unwashed shoes at the door. "Mama, good morning. Welcome." I said, "Where is your wife, Segun? Don't waste my time." He led her inside, bracing himself, and watched my mother's face change as she took in the living room. Clothes draped over chairs, plates stacked on the center table, a smell hanging in the air that made her press a handkerchief to her nose without even trying to hide it. "Jesus Christ, have mercy," Morike breathed. Wura appeared from the bedroom in a faded wrapper, hair uncombed, blinking at the light like she'd just woken up from a nap that had lasted a season. "Mama Segun," she said, forcing a smile, "you didn't tell us you were coming. Would it have mattered?" Morenike's eyes swept over her, top to bottom, and something in her face closed like a door. "My son, would you have baths for the occasion, or is bathing now a luxury in this house?" "Mama," Segun started. "No, let her answer me." Morenike folded her arms. "My son is coming home every day, looking like a man carrying the whole of Lagos on his back. And I find out from Kehinde's mother, who I greet in church, that he opened his lunch in front of his colleagues and something crawled out of it. My son, a graduate, being laughed at like a mumu because his wife cannot manage a flask?" Wura's jaw tightened. "Mama, with respect, that is between me and my husband. It stopped being between you and your husband the day it became gist for the whole church. Do you know what people are saying? That Segun married a woman who cannot take care of herself, not to talk of a home." "I am resting." Wura's voice cracked upward, sharp and defensive. "Everybody keeps attacking me like resting is a crime. I worked myself into the ground for 2 years before this marriage. Nobody said anything then. Now I want to breathe and suddenly I'm the problem." "Resting?" Morenike's laugh had no warmth in it at all. "You call this resting? My daughter, resting is when you sleep and wake up refreshed. This," she gestured at the room, at Wura herself, "this is something else. This is a woman who has given up." "I have not given up." "Then prove it. Go and bathe right now in front of me." "Mama, please," Segun said quietly, stepping between them. "No, Segun, let her hear me, because clearly you have been too soft with her." Morenike turned back to Wura, voice dropping into something colder and more dangerous than shouting. "I raised my son to respect his wife. I did not raise him to be embarrassed by her. You will fix this house or you will lose him. And don't think love will save you, because love does not wash dishes and love does not kill smell." Wura's eyes failed. Fury and hurt tangled together so tightly she couldn't separate them. "I have been carrying something. Nobody in this house asks me how I'm feeling. They only ask why the sink is dirty." "Because the sink is dirty," Morenike snapped. "Nobody is stopping you from feeling something. Feel it while you wash a plate." Segun pressed his palms against his temples. "Can everybody just stop, please? Just stop." "No," Wura said, voice shaking, grabbing her wrapper tighter around her. "Your mother came into my house and insulted me in front of you, and you're asking it to stop? I'm asking both of you to stop. I can't breathe in here." "Then breathe outside," Morenike said flatly, "because I am not finished." Wura didn't wait to hear the rest. She stormed into the bedroom and slammed the door hard enough to rattle the framed wedding photo on the wall. The same photo of that rooftop night, her laughing, his arm around her waist, a version of them that felt like it belonged to strangers now. Morenike exhaled slowly and sat down, careful to keep her lace off the stained armrest. "Segun, sit." He sat, dropping his head into his hands. "I'm not saying this to hurt you," she said, gentler now, though her eyes were still hard. "But you cannot keep begging a grown woman to take care of herself. Begging has not worked. Gifts have not worked. What is left?" "I don't know, Mama. I've tried everything." "Have you tried consequences?" Segun looked up. "What do you mean?" "I mean, stop rescuing her from the mess she's making. Let her feel the weight of it. A woman who has nothing to lose will never change. Give her something to lose." He sat with that for a long moment, the bedroom door still closed, his wife's muffled crying seeping faintly through the wood, and something in his chest, patience maybe, or the last of it, hardened into a decision. "I'll think about it," he said quietly. But he already knew what he was going to do. If this is hitting close to home for you, drop a like and tell us in the comments, have you ever had to set a hard boundary with someone you love? Subscribe so you don't miss out, because what Segun does next changes everything. 2 weeks later, Segun came home with a stranger. "Wura," he said, setting his briefcase down carefully like a man diffusing something. "This is Blessing. She's going to be helping around the house from now on." Wura looked up from the couch, confusion sliding into something sharper. "Helping with what?" "Cooking, cleaning, the things that haven't been getting done." The words landed like a slap. Wura sat up straight, wrapper falling from her shoulder, eyes suddenly wide awake in a way they hadn't been in months. "You brought a house help into my house without asking me?" "I tried asking you, Wura. For 3 years I've been asking you. So this is punishment. You want to embarrass me in my own house now." "I don't want to embarrass you." And her voice was steady in a way that frightened her more than shouting would have. "I want to eat food that is not spoiled. I want to sleep in a bed that doesn't smell. I want a home, Wura, and I have begged you for one, and you have given me excuses instead." Blessing stood quietly by the door, eyes down, clearly wishing she were anywhere else. "And what am I supposed to do while another woman runs my house?" Wura's voice cracked on the word another, some old fear surfacing beneath the anger. "You are going to find something to occupy yourself," Segun said, "because starting this month, your allowance is going to Blessing's salary instead. If you want money for yourself, you'll have to earn it." The silence that followed was total. Wura stared at him like he'd become someone she didn't recognize. "You are cutting me off?" "I'm redirecting it. There's a difference." "There's no difference, Segun. You're punishing me for resting." "I'm done calling it rest." He met her eyes and didn't flinch. "You've had 3 years of rest, Wura. I love you. I have never stopped loving you. But I am not going to keep drowning quietly so you can keep pretending everything is fine. Something has to change. And if it's not going to be you choosing it, then I'll choose it for you." She wanted to scream at him, to throw something, to make him take it back. But underneath the fury was a colder feeling she didn't have a name for yet. The sensation of ground shifting under her feet for the first time in years. That night, she lay stiff and silent beside him, staring at the ceiling, replaying his words. "I have never stopped loving you." If that was true, then how did it feel like losing something? The weeks that followed were a slow, humiliating unraveling. She watched Blessing move through her kitchen with an ease she used to have, watched her fold laundry with quick, capable hands, watched Segun thank Blessing for meals he used to thank her for. Every small competence Blessing showed felt like an accusation. One evening, restless and actually broke, unable to buy the imported lotion she used to order without thinking, she found herself digging through an old box in the back of the wardrobe. Combs, a cape, a half-used tub of relaxer dried out from disuse, her braiding kit. She'd built a small clientele with it back in university, good enough that girls used to queue outside her hostel room on Saturday mornings. She sat on the floor holding the comb like it belonged to a different woman. "What are you doing?" Wura's voice from the doorway. She hadn't heard him come in. "Nothing," she said too quickly, shoving the box aside. He didn't push. He just looked at her for a long moment, not with anger this time, but something quieter, something that almost looked like hope, before he turned and left the room. She sat there a while longer after he'd gone, comb still in her hand, and for the first time in longer than she could admit, she thought about who she used to be before all of this, before the excuses, before the smell, before the fights, and the thought of that girl laughing on a rooftop in Lekki made something in her chest ache with a grief she hadn't let herself feel. The next morning, she washed her hair for the first time in 3 weeks. She stood under the water longer than she needed to, crying quietly, letting it wash over her like it might wash something else away too. When she came out, Blessing was in the kitchen, and for the first time, Wura didn't look away in shame. She walked in, picked up a rag, and started wiping down the counter beside her. Blessing glanced at her, startled, unsure what to say. "I used to be good at things," Wura said quietly, mostly to herself. "I forgot that." If you've ever had to lose yourself before finding your way back, comment "I understand" below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe, because soon everything finally comes together. The first client came 3 days later, a neighbor's daughter needing cornrows for her son's naming ceremony. Wura's hands shook as she parted the small boy's hair, out of practice, out of confidence, certain she'd forgotten everything she once knew. She hadn't. Her fingers found the old rhythm on their own, and by the time she tied off the last braid, the neighbor was turning her son's head this way and that, grinning. "Ah, Sister Wura, your hand's still sweet oh. How much do I owe you?" Wura opened her mouth to say nothing, don't worry about it, the way she used to deflect everything, and stopped herself. 2,000 naira, she said, instead, and the words felt strange and good in her mouth, like muscle she hadn't used in years. She held the money in her palm long after the woman left, staring at it like it was more than paper. That night, she told Segun over dinner, a dinner that Blessing had cooked, that Wura had, for the first time in weeks, actually helped set the table for. "I made money today," she said, "my own money." Segun looked up from his plate, something careful and hopeful crossing his face. How did it feel? Like I remembered something I forgot I was allowed to want. She turned the fork over in her hand. "Segun, I owe you an apology. Not for resting. I still think I needed that at the start, but for what I let the resting become, for punishing you for asking me to be a partner instead of a passenger." He said, "I shouldn't have let it go on as long as it did either," he said quietly. "I thought loving you meant never pushing you. I was wrong. Sometimes loving someone means telling you the truth, even if it costs you peace for a while." She reached across the table and took his hand, the way she used to when they were newly married, and every touch still felt electric. "I want to build something again. Not just braiding hair for neighbors, a real shop one day." "Then let's build it," he said, and for the first time in a long time, his smile reached his eyes. Word spread quietly through the estate. The woman who used to be a ghost in her own home was now doing hair on her veranda every weekend, laughing with clients, humming while she worked. Within 2 months, she had saved enough to rent a tiny shop space 2 streets away, its signboard hand-painted, Ura's Crown. Molike visited on opening day, standing in the doorway of the small shop, taking in the neat shelves, the smell of shea butter instead of spoiled stew, and the daughter-in-law she barely recognized, moving confidently between clients. "So," Moike said, arms folded, though there was no bite in it this time, "you found yourself." Ora said, meeting her eyes without flinching, "I had to lose myself first. Thank you for not staying quiet, Mama. I needed someone to tell me the truth, even if I hated hearing it." Morike's stern face softened into something almost tender. "Don't thank me, thank my son. Not every man would have the strength to let you fall so you could learn to stand." That evening, Segun picked Ora from the shop, and instead of driving straight home, he took a small detour, up towards Lekki, towards a familiar rooftop with a familiar view of the city lights spreading out below them. "Why are we here?" she asked, though she already suspected. "Because I want to remember," he said, taking her hand as they stepped out. "And I want you to remember too, not who we became for a while, who we actually are." She looked at him, the same man who had gone down on a knee here 3 years ago, older now, tired in ways he wasn't then, but steadier too. And she closed the distance between them and kissed him, slow and certain, the way she had the night he proposed. "I love you," she whispered against his mouth. "Thank you for not giving up on me, even when you had every reason to." "I love you too. Rest is not the enemy, Ura. Neglect is. There's a difference, and now we both know it." Below them, Lagos glittered on, indifferent and endless, while above it, on a rooftop that once held a proposal and now held a second beginning, 2 people chose each other again, not out of habit this time, but of hard-won, deliberate love. If this story moved you, smash that like button, subscribe so you never miss what we drop next, and drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from. We read every single one. See you in the next story.